Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Cryptid Creator Corner. I'm Byron O'Neill, your host for our Comics Creator Chat. Today is truly a special one because Jimmy and I are together, and not for our annual show, but because he's busy promoting his own graphic novel, Penny and the Yeti from Papercutz. It feels really weird to welcome you on the show, man.
Thank you. It feels weird to be here. But
Well,
thank
I
you.
know
Thank
you've
you.
been
I'm excited to actually be on the Cryptid Creator Corner.
as a guest and not a host.
Yes.
Well, I know you've been on the press trail and doing tons of interviews lately for the book. What's that experience been like being on the other side of the mic?
Yeah, it's strange to have to be the one to talk about the book. It's odd because eh, there are moments of it that I feel less pressure. I don't have to be the one to come up with questions or to try and if a creator isn't super talkative, like I don't have to try and find a way to engage with them and get them to come out of their shell a little. I don't have to worry
Right.
about any of that. Like I'm just there to answer questions. I know a ton about the book and creating it, and most of the time, Amber's been with me to answer, all of the art questions for all the wonderful, whimsical art that she, you know, put into the book. And so it's odd that there is like a little pressure that's been off. I don't have to like run the show. I don't have to control things. And at the same time, you do though want to come up with interesting things to say. You don't wanna just be giving the same kind of, like, rote answers over and over again, so, yeah, just in case there are listeners out there who might listen to a couple different things, like, you just don't wanna sound like you're giving the same type of answer. I wanna I wanna sound genuine. I wanna sound authentic because that's how I think I am being, but, sometimes you get asked the same questions and it's tough. So,
Yep.
it's been different, but it's been enjoyable. Also, I'm trying to think how in terms of my interview style, if there's things I can do to kind of make it more interesting for creators that are doing a lot of press so that, I'm trying to maybe dig in a little more to the book or ask them something that maybe nobody else has asked or, talk about something that isn't the book or comics that is some other interest that they have or something else that they're into, just to give them an opportunity to talk about something else. So, yeah, it's been an interesting experience. I'm enjoying it.
That's awesome. Well, I want to hear a little bit about this whole comics writing journey and why you were crazy enough to start doing it in comics to begin with. I know your wife is a professional photographer, and your in for kind of getting back into comics was these weekend trips to the library with the girls while Sarah was on assignment shooting. So, at what point did you decide, yeah, writing comics? That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first time I ever thought about doing it was 2020 for Mad Cave's talent search. Um, it just felt like a really low bar to entry. You just had to like read, I've entered the talent search maybe 2 or 3 times over the past few years. I've never won, but I've always found it to be a very fun experience and worthwhile. But yeah, 2020, I thought that there wasn't anything that, was really stopping me. It wasn't like I had to pay money or an entry fee. You just had to read one of Mad Cave's books and then write, I don't know, a 10 to 20 page story, I think, at the time. And so I, got books from the library, like Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics and a couple other books about writing comics. Checked my trade paperbacks to see if there was any back matter with like a script so I could just see how it was formatted. Um, but, the real reason I think I wanted to do something and go from a fan and someone that reads comics, um, to trying my hand at writing, I think was just because I miss doing something creative. I used to do theater in high school and college and even a little bit of community theater after college, but I hadn't done a show since 2010, I think was the last show I had done, so it'd been a decade, it'd been 10 years, and I hadn't done any theater, I hadn't done anything that felt really creative, I mean, work as an attorney isn't particularly creative, Um, I deal with car accident cases, and it's not like I'm coming up with unique legal arguments. I really do not like writing legal briefs. Last year I had 4 cases that I appealed, or that were appealed, to the Delaware Supreme Court. So, having to write Delaware Supreme Court briefs 4 times, which, I mean, I think I'd only ever had to do it one other time before that in
Wow.
the 14 years I've been a Delaware attorney. I've only ever had, like, 1 Delaware Supreme Court brief. Last year I had 4. And, I mean, I had help with, some very talented folks in my office, but it's not particularly creative.
Yeah.
Um, I I think at least not me. I'm not good in terms of the legal side of it. It's like, I try and approach it very logically, and it's almost like I don't really access the creative, um, I don't know, part of my brain. It's just hard for me to find interesting ways to write about, the legal work, at least the type of stuff I do. I will say though that I did once come up with something that I thought was creative for a particular uh, case involving, um, an individual that had passed away from COVID in a nursing home was the case, and um, the case got dismissed, and we had appealed it. This wasn't to the Delaware Supreme Court. This was, I think, another superior court case. Um, but I had said that there's a particular uh, statute that the other side was using, both to try and get the case remanded from superior court to federal court, and then at other times they were using it to dismiss. So I said they were using the statute as both as a sword and a shield, which was not the purpose of it. And then the judge quoted that in her decision, ruling in my favor, and that's, I think, the closest I'll ever get to anything like cool that I have written in the legal world. But uh so that was about it. So other than that, I hadn't really had anything creative. And I'm like, well, I read all these comics, and I hadn't yet started a comic book Yeti because that wasn't really until the end of 2020 and the beginning of 21. And I thought, well, I'll try this. I'll enter this contest. I'll see if I can't write a script. That sounds neat. I just never had any, I don't know, I never had any thoughts about being a writer when I was younger. I mean, I love to read. I love theater. I loved TV and movies, but I never, maybe as like some daydream where I thought, oh, that'd be cool. Wouldn't that be cool to like write a book? Wouldn't that be cool to like write a movie or write a screenplay? But I just an offhand comment like that. I never seriously ever considered pursuing it as any type of, I don't know, occupation or really any type of hobby. But I think it was just not having anything that I felt was like creative and for me, you know? Um, so I think that's why I started to, well, I don't know, I read all these comics. Let me try. Maybe I can write one. Maybe I can write a story. So
Well, as a visual artist, I can't wait until you get to hold that thing you created in your hands. Like, as your friend, like, I'm seriously looking forward to this because I remember what it was like the first time I had my work hanging in a gallery and you had people walking up and looking at it and, interacting, talking about this thing that I made and, you know, objectively enjoying, it at the time. So it's the coolest experience. So I'm definitely excited to see and hear about your own experience kind of, "Hey, I made this thing. Whoa, people like it. That is so cool."
yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I am. I'm excited. I can't wait. And I'm excited to do like a signing at my local comic shop, and hopefully people show up and I won't have to make one of those like sad TikToks where like nobody came to my signing.
I don't think that's gonna be the case. I don't
Yeah,
think that'll be the case at all.
I'll hopefully not. But yeah, if even if that happens, it's always a good day when you're at the comic book shop. So
That it won't. It's gonna go great. It's gonna go great.
yeah.
Faith, my friend. Well, this originated with you and your daughter Penny working on a one-page comic short, I believe. So how the hell did that morph into a whole graphic novel? 'Cause I remember this, when you were telling me, "Hey, I'm gonna work on this. Hey, I've got a graphic novel I'm working on." I was like, "Where the hell did that come from?" Like, I
Yeah,
remember the short, and then here to there, I really haven't ever heard the whole story about.
yeah, so initially it was a 4-page short, and it was just that, I was putting Penny to bed one night, and I think it's really funny to talk to children like they're adults. Why. I get a huge, I get a huge kick out of it, and so I was like, when I was putting her to bed, and this was 4 years ago. I mean, she was 5 at the time, um, and I said, "Hey, do you have any big plans for the summer?" Like, "No." Like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Do you?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I have to work. I don't really have a summer." I'm like, "Why? Do you have any idea, like, anything I should do?" And she said, "I think you should write a story." I mean, because she knew by 2022, they had seen me trying to write, or she saw me with my notebook, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to pitch to this anthology." Um, and so I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll write a story. What should it be about?" And she said a Yeti because I had been with Comic Book Yeti. She knew about Comic Book Yeti, so she said a Yeti, and I said, "Well, if the a Yeti's in it, we got to have Penny in it as well." So we came up with this like story idea. They go to the diner because Penny loves the Brandywine Diner near us. She calls it the Shiny Diner because it's like what looks like one of those old chrome, New Jersey diners.
Okay.
And yeah. So we came up with a story idea, and I thought it would be neat to show her how a comic was made. So I scripted it. I reached out to Beck Kubrick, who did the artwork for the short that I worked on in By Visibility. Beck wasn't available, but they gave me a few names, and one of them was Amber's. And so I
Okay.
I looked at Amber's portfolio, and right away I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." So I got Amber on board to do the 4-page short just to show Penny, like, "Hey, isn't this neat? We had a story idea. This is where you know, um, this is how comics made. This is how it works." And I posted it online. And then fast forward about a year or so, and Mad Cave had the open the submissions, and it was a function of I was just trying to force myself to like take the next step. I had pitched to a bunch of different anthologies, and probably for like every 10 rejections I had one accepted. So I had like a short comic published at that point. And I was like, well, I haven't like written anything longer than 10 pages. And I hadn't had anything published longer than maybe 6. I said I really should try to pitch something. The only artwork I had was the Yeti and the Big Stomp, which is what we called the 4-page short. And so I was really just trying to save money and not like hire an artist to do pitch pages. And I said, "Well, is there anything I can do with this? Like what is the story here? Is it just about Penny and her friend Yeti? Is it something like that?" Um, and I thought, well, who else is in the story? Like who does Penny live with? And then I thought, oh, I'll have the whole family in it. And I had this idea that really also kind of came from something Penny said when Sarah and I were like in an argument, and Penny, the real really does not like arguing. Um, I mean, I don't think we're Fenton and Maxine. It's not like this book is autobiographical, but um, just that little idea. I said, well, what if we have a scenario where the parents are arguing, the youngest kid, Penny, really doesn't like it, and we have this Yeti character come in who Penny thinks is there to, like, help get my parents to stop arguing, which,
Yeah.
you know, of course, isn't gonna work work because that's not how, you know, adult relationships with work. Like, kids can't really come in and it's not like a magical Yeti is gonna come in and fix everything. But, there were other elements to it, like the older sister, Penny I always thought that, like, Penny thought that the older sister was kind of, like, not there in the way that Penny maybe wanted her to be, and so it's almost like Yeti was kinda like this best friend, sibling that Penny, felt she needed, and so, yeah, I outlined it, and I reached out to Amber and I'm like, "Hey, I like outlined the story and I was gonna pitch it and just use the Yeti and the big stomp." Because I think Mad Cave submissions, they wanted like 6 to 8 pages, and I just had the 4. And I was like, "I have no idea what's gonna happen, but I'm just gonna do this if it's okay with you, like, and I don't know what'll happen." And she's like, "Yeah, go ahead. That'll be great." And so I sent it in, and it was probably a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so later that Papercutz reached out that they liked it, they loved Amber's art, and they wanted to talk more about, maybe, us making a graphic novel. And I was like, "Oh, great. Sure. Awesome." And,
Now I
but
got to do
inside,
it.
now I gotta do it.
Yeah.
Now I told these nice people that I could write, like, I think I pitched it as 114 pages, you know? And I was like, "Now what do I what in the world possessed me to do this?"
Yup.
So now it's 2 years later, and the graphic novel comes out in a little more than 2 weeks. Yay.
Crazy. That is a wild journey. It really is. I mean, it's like manifesting something you didn't even know you wanted to do. So,
Yeah. It's just it's weird. And, like, to still do the podcast and, like, bring it up, because, like, a part of me's felt like I just wanna belong to this club. Like, that's part of the reason I did it, which sounds so silly for, like, a 47-year-old man to say, like, I just wanted to belong." Um, and so, I sometimes tell guests on the podcast, like, "Well, I have a graphic novel too," just like, "I'm one of you, right?
yep.
Please?"
Yep.
It's so ridiculous.
It's like high school again. You want to be one of the cool
Yeah.
kids.
It is exactly like high school again, um, a little bit. But yeah, I just like, I don't know. Uh, I'm not very good at, like, moving on to the next thing. I'm hoping that, I'd like to do more and tell other stories. So, I haven't really done a ton of stuff, but since this, I didn't really write much last year. But so I'm hoping that once this is out, I'll feel like, okay, I can now move on to maybe trying to do something else. So we'll see.
Well, I think it's this book is super, super relatable. That was my takeaway from my read. Thematically, it's easily one of the most relatable books that are written for younger readers that I've seen in a long time, topically, because we don't see as much of the real life struggle of parents trying to manage all that modern life throws us. And maybe that's just me, and maybe that's why I connected it with it because, I have a teenager myself and all these things feel very, very relatable. Most of the time though, it's a parent that's out of the picture or you have a protagonist that's dealing with bullying and all those are important and relevant, but this just feels very, very direct. So walk me through why you wanted to make that the nucleus of the story.
I think part of it is just having read a ton of kids books and all ages books with my 2 kids,
Okay.
and it's always great when I'm reading something with them. First when I'm reading it to them, and then as they get, as they're able to read, we kind of take turns a little bit. And now, I mean, not Charlotte anymore. She's 13, but with Penny still, she'll read to me now basically. Like when I put her to bed, she'll read to me or we watch this TikTok video the guy makes sandwiches. But when, from all the different books that I've read, it's great when the kids like something and, like, there's also something in there for, like, the parents when I'm
Yeah.
also actively engaged, because then you look forward to that. Not that I don't look forward you know, to bedtime or to reading with them, but it is a little bit better when the material is engaging. And also, I think there's a lot of not a lot, but, there are some kids' books that I've read where there's just some things that I haven't liked about how they've approached the material, or where I feel they're maybe not talking down to kids, certainly with older books. More modern books or more recent books, you don't see that as much. Um, but I do still think that there are some books out there that don't really give kids enough credit for how
Yeah.
perceptive they are and how
Oh, yeah.
astute they are and the emotional intelligence of children. And I mean, I'm not the first one to like discover this or Amber and I aren't the first to do this. There's books out there that are like amazing. But I've seen some that I didn't think did it very well. And I thought, well, you know, what things do I want to make sure, not like a mission statement, but just some things. What do I want to make sure that I do well or that we do well with this book? And I wanted the family to feel really relatable and authentic because I thought the more fun, imaginative stuff with Yeti would feel more magical. The more relatable the family felt. I wanted to have a book that I felt kids and parents could read together, and there would be something for both of them in there. Um, which Amber's art, I think, does a ton of heavy lifting with that because it is so friendly and so,
It is.
like, bright and vibrant and whimsical. Um, I wanted to do something where I thought the kids were front and center, or where the kids have, uh, agency or as much agency in as possible in some of the things that was going on, that I didn't want the book to feel like it was talking down to kids. And the other thing, because I'm dealing with a family where the parents are fighting, and arguing, Amber and I never wanted it to feel like it was too scary in terms of the arguments for younger readers. We also never wanted to present like an answer. I didn't want anyone whose parents, a kid reading this whose parents had gone through divorce, feel like I was saying that there was something wrong if that happens. I wanted to present, and you know, we don't really say what happens with the family. By the end of it, they're still together and working on it. But I never wanted to say that this is the right answer. Like divorce is the right answer, or staying together is the right answer. Like it's really, I think, and what I wanted it to be about is more so about that feeling for kids of that stress and tension in the home, where when you have two parents who are, you know, either fighting, arguing, nitpicking, like, just whatever it might be, just that uncomfortable feeling to have to deal with that, and you really just want everybody to kinda get along. And so I mean, we tried to keep all of those things in mind as we crafted this story, and, I don't know, I think we did it. So, I mean,
I do.
readers, you be the judge.
No, I definitely do. I did a reread the other day, and I think again, it's just some of what I'm processing myself. It came off as a bit raw, personally for me, because when we were growing up, my parents were you didn't discuss the marital problems, right? That was just not something in our generation that was done. And as you know,
Yeah,
my brother visited a couple weeks back, and we were talking about when we were in high school and my parents being checked out. And he had never really put together, really didn't know that they were going through marriage counseling at the time. So here we are. I'm 51. He's in his late 40s. And he's finally having this realization, oh, wow. Like I had no idea my parents were struggling, and now couples counseling is way more normalized than, mental health in general is. So I think it's a great topic to be covering in a book, especially for kids.
well, thank you. I do appreciate that. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, my parents are still together. They're going to be 70 this year. They've been together since they were, oh geez, 19 maybe. They met in
Wow.
high school. I mean, they had me at 22. Um, and so, and I have a younger brother, Bobby, and my younger sister Desiree. Um, and so they've been together forever. And but they certainly had their arguments growing up, and it is interesting, like, when you get older and when you become a parent, and this is an experience I found, and with Sarah's family as well, because she's the youngest of 3. Um, like, the stuff that you start to talk about when you're older and you become a parent, and then your parents, you know, let slip or actually talk to you about some of these things that were going on when you were a kid and you were just like, "Oh, I had I had no idea." Like,
Mhm.
"I didn't know that," or "I didn't know this," or, um, it is a very a very interesting, situation to try and, because then you start to think back all these things, all these memories of your, at least I did, all these memories of your childhood, and you're like, "Oh, wait, well, I thought this was A, and was it was it really B?" Like, "Oh, I had,"
Yeah.
you know, it is interesting. Um, you know?
My favorite part is when my parents will judge me for being overly strict. And that's a really fun one because it was like, well, you guys had your opportunity and you let me get away with way too much. So, um, my kid's going to a top 20 college. I went to community college and then dropped out. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I did finish my degree. I actually double majored, but it was much later. I entered college back entered college at 28 and, finished up then, and you're just in an entirely different place in your life. It's totally different experience, and it's not I would not advise anybody trying to do it because it's really, really hard. You're in a completely separate place than the rest of any kind of peer group. So it's yeah, but yeah, I love the judgment from my parents on the "You're too strict." Uh,
Yeah, I it's w w we, one of the things that we bring up sometimes is I I mean, half jokingly, but, the old adage, "Many a true thing has been said in jest." Like, I say to my mom that she's given all 3 of her children, um, like, body image issues, and she's like, That's not true." And I'm like, "No, all of us are all of us, me, my brother, and my sister, um, like, all have a difficult relationship, I think, in terms of, like, weight gain and, like, how we look, and my mom still does it to this day, and, like, I'll call her on it now because I'm like, You're not gonna do that in front of my kids."
yeah,
Like, my mother's the type of person that if she sees somebody that she hasn't seen in a while and she wants to tell you about it, the first thing she says is, "Oh my god, I ran into Betty, at Boost Corners, the farmer's market, and she looked great. She's lost, like, 40 pounds. She looked amazing." Or, "Oh my gosh, I ran into Betty. She looked awful. It looked like she ate her husband." So and, like, those things, get get compounded, and they, well, no pun intended, but, like, weigh on you as you get older, and, I've had to say things like, "Don't do that. You're not gonna do it either way. You're not gonna comment on what my kid looks like or, anything along those lines." I've recently, at 47, been told that, my mother had no idea how sensitive I am. So so
whoa,
so apparently calling somebody out for what I will say is, like, toxic behavior, is really because I'm too sensitive. But, you know, we move on. I'll write another book.
there you go. Channel that.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, one of the things I really loved about the book was the Yeti that I found fascinating with was they're not exempt of about having big feelings as well. And it was an interesting way for Penny to process in a different way because you usually think, right, it's a cryptid. First of all, generally people are gonna like either be really, really surprised or you think maybe this is an imaginary friend. But the Yeti is everybody just kind of accepts well, Yeti, not even the Yeti. There's not even a
yeah.
pronoun there. So, why was it important to illustrate that everyone has feelings?
But well, I mean, everyone does have feelings, and I think it is important. And also, um, one of the things about, the character of Penny is that, and this was something that I feel about myself a little bit, is that, and I think it's something that's generally applicable to a lot of humans, where we're really good talking to other people about a topic or an emotional issue, a mental health issue, but we're terrible about, like, having that conversation with ourself. And so something about Penny as a kid that I thought was interesting was she's really good about recognizing, wha how and very empathic to, like, how Yeti is feeling and talking to Yeti about those big feelings, but she still is having a difficult time kind of processing and being able to talk to her parents about, you know, how their arguing is making her feel. But beyond, just say I'm sorry and you and mom be okay or you and dad be okay. So I thought that was kind of like an interesting uh concept that I wanted to bring into it. And
Yeah.
I just thought even if you didn't relate to the issue with the parents, with Fenton and Maxine at all, I still think, that this is a really good story in terms of friendship and empathy and kindness. And that's just, I don't know, it's just something I wanted to see. I just want to see two people that were like being really sweet to each other and really just trying to, you know, get through it as best they can and have fun. And that was another added element that was really important to us, to include. And, Amber does a great job with all those scenes and with
Yeah.
Penny and Yeti's facial expressions and how they interact with each other. It's really great.
Well, I think she was absolutely critical to get the balance right because parents yelling that can come off pretty harsh, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, my wife is a psychologist and mental health being a part of our own family dialogue, but we all get hot, you know. And this is a really it resonated maybe a little bit too much because I've been accused a time or two of being like, "Okay, you're yelling," and I'm like, I'm not yelling. My voice isn't
Yeah.
that loud," you know?
Yeah.
But I think the success in this project definitely is balancing out an entertaining story with also all these coping mechanisms too. So, did you have to, where are you pulling from with all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is probably, I mean, I have a background in psychology, not that I really use my bachelor's degree, but,
Oh,
that
okay. I
much
didn't
in
even
terms
know
of
that.
being a lawyer. Yeah, my bachelor's degree from St. Joe's, is in psychology.
Oh, okay.
Not that I keep up too much on modern trends, but probably pulling a little from that, probably, pulling a little bit from, I don't know, going to therapy myself, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Um, and, um, just really trying to be even-handed with everyone, with all the characters so that, we don't ever I never wanted the parents to feel like they were the villains. It's, you know, a lot of their arguments are not really about big, huge things. But just trying to stress, especially with Penny and Perry, and as we get towards the end of the book, just about talking about those things, just trying to talk it out, trying to have a more helpful approach to your feelings rather than acting it out initially, just trying to sit with some of those feelings before you respond. Um, so just really little simple things, that I thought would be helpful to everyone in every situation when especially when you're dealing with any type of conflict. So, I didn't think it was anything like groundbreaking, but just a few simple things that I thought would work. Or, if a kid is reading it who does have big feelings, maybe it'll help them even a little. So that's it.
Yeah, there was some nice moments I thought where you're also picking up on and really grounding it in the experience of the family, right? So dance class was absolutely a highlight for me, where parents will emphasize so much the extracurriculars, and we tend to forget that it's like an enjoyment of the activity that really caused us to pursue it in the first place. And the Yeti provides that space to punctuate that, where the absence of it, Penny would not have had the opportunity to do that, which I thought was really clever. You did well,
Oh,
is what
thank
I'm
you.
saying.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I mean, with the Penny and Yeti stuff, when they're not trying to like fix, quote unquote, fix, according to Penny, Fenton and Maxine, like I just wanted it to be fun.
Yeah.
I think if I had to say that I had any strength, as a dad, I've definitely always been one of those like let's get down on the floor and play kind of dads, like let's break out the action figures, let's tell a story, let's build a world, let's use these Legos or magnet tiles and we'll will build something for them and will act out or whatever. And I did that with Charlotte. I've done that with Penny. Um, and so imaginative play is like really important to me. And it was one of those things I didn't realize how much until I had kids. Um, and especially like had a conversation with a parent, and this is going to sound judgy. I don't really mean it to be, but it's just what happened. Where we were talking about interacting with our kids, and they said, "Well, yeah, I really don't have an imagine like a I don't know if they said an imagination or like a good imagination." And they said it was like really hard for them to do that and just like make up stuff. And I probably like should have sent messages to my face because I probably looked like so shocked, and I didn't mean to make the person feel bad. I just that concept is like really foreign to me, and it I had to, like, take a second to wrap my head around it. Um, I guess it's one of those things I just took for granted. They're like, "Oh, everybody has an imagination, right?" I mean, sure,
Right.
some are better than others, but I never met anyone that felt like they didn't have an imagination or wasn't able to do that. Um, it's just it was always important, but I never realized exactly how much until, I had kids and started playing with the kids, and it was just, like, hugely important in terms of being able to be creative or just in terms of fun, uh, so
Was that something then that your parents did with you when, when you were growing up? I'm just curious 'cause I'm thinking about my own experience while you're talking about that. And it was really kind of eerie because I realized when you're talking about the the imaginary play, like, okay, what do I do with my kid? And for me, we're a sports family. And so the eerie aspect was, "Oh my god, I'm my father," and I really was uncomfortable with that thought, because yesterday, we're up in Fane's room, and for Christmas, I got him a little basketball goal, so when he's at college, he'll be able to have a little basketball goal, the kind that goes over a door or
yeah.
whatever, that he can shoot on when he's in his dorm, and we were just kinda shooting together, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm my father. I hate this." So I was just curious if that was something that you did, with your parents or something, or was it the absence of it that they didn't, that you're like, "No, I'm doing this." It's just funny how we become our own parents or how we rebel against or try to fill in the vacuum of the things that we didn't do with them.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think um, with my dad, he was definitely, involved in terms of like play, but it was probably more sports stuff. I was just never really into sports, but we'd have a catch. Like my brother and I played baseball. My Bobby played other sports. Bobby could like play anything. That
Okay.
was not me. I was not very coordinated, but my dad certainly encouraged uh my love of Star Wars and things along those lines. I still have all my action figures where when like, every payday, I think, or every other payday, they'd take me down to, like, the toy store, and I'd get, like, a new action figure for my collection. Um, it was different just because I think my dad would have done it more, but he worked shift work, and so that was always,
Okay.
it all depended on what shift he was in. And then Bobby and I are, you know, pretty close in age, about just about, um 3 years apart. So, I always had, like, a built-in person I could play with in terms of Legos or, we lived um, when we were younger, we lived in a little street with twin homes, and there was a field, Polson's Field, so we were always down at Polson's Field and building forts and playing in the crick and doing that kinda stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I wasn't trying to dig too much. I was just very curious, and it was, I don't know, it dawned on me, and I was very, very uncomfortable with this aspect of, oh my God, I'm my father. And the scariest part of it, I guess, for me, with my son, of course, going off to college in the fall, is how much of a separation that was for me and my dad, and how the relationship really is never. It's never been the same because he was amazing as a father when I was younger. But, by the time I hit high school, come to find out it's because of the marital issues. But, he was just kind of checked out. And I don't know. It's just really, I don't know. Being a parent is terrible. It's the most terrifying thing you could ever do. I don't
It
recommend it, people who are listening. If you don't have children, don't.
it is yeah, it is. It is kinda scary. It is scary. I agree, just everything just worrying about everything, um, and it's just like it's never done. You're you're always worrying about something, so it's you're not for the faint of heart.
Well, back to the book then. How excited is Penny to get to see this, to be a part of it? With the signings and stuff coming up, I'm sure she's got to be not just proud, like way to go, Dad, but really excited.
Yeah, she hasn't read it yet. I've asked her if she wanted to read it and, on like the iPad, and she said no. She wants to wait until like she can hold the physical book in her hand. But she is excited. She's excited. I'm going to go to her class and talk to both third grades about the book and about making comics, and I'll find some other stuff to talk about too. But yeah, she is excited. It's just funny. Like sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, I was going to make a video. Do you want to be in it?" And she's like, "No." And then like I'm like, "Okay, you don't have to." And then a little bit later, she'll be like, "Okay, I guess I'll be in the video." Like, what do you want me to say? Um, so I think there is some excitement. I said something to her the other day. I'm like, "Well, what if you read it and you don't like it?" And she goes, "I'll like it." And I'm like, "But what if you don't?" She goes, "No, no, no. I know. I'll like it." I was like, "Okay."
Wow, no
But
pressure.
yeah,
My God, I'm never
yeah.
writing anything.
Yeah, so, yeah, she is excited, but so we'll see, and it's funny because Charlotte, um, has been really everyone's asked, like, "Well, how does Charlotte feel?" And I'm like, I told Charlotte and I explained it, like, I didn't plan this, right? Like, I didn't set out, I am going to write a graphic novel called Penny and the Yeti, and it just that's not how it happened. Um, so yeah, Charlotte's like, "I don't care. That's fine. It's great, whatever." But like 'cause she's savvy enough at 13 though that she will like use it against me when she feels like it.
Yeah.
If she's like, "Hey, can
Oh
I
yeah.
stay up another half hour?" And I'm like, "No, you got to go to bed. You have school tomorrow." And she goes, "Oh, really? Because I was just sitting here sad that you wrote a book called Penny and the Yeti." And I'm like, "Oh my God, Charlotte, will you please knock it off?
Oh,
I know
that
you
is
don't
that
really
is
feel that
evil.
way." Yeah. Oh, she's funny. And she'll be like, "I'm just kidding."
Right.
Um, yeah.
Teenagers. Just wait.
Uh, yeah. So at 13, she's funny. Lucky for her, or maybe unlucky for her, she definitely inherited my sense of humor. Like especially when I was her age, like she could be very sarcastic, very biting. She's pretty good at cutting people to the quick when she wants to. So,
But
good for
she's the
her.
artist, right? She's the
Yeah,
artist in
she's
the
the
family?
artist.
Well, there
Yeah.
you go. You just do something with her where she can illustrate it. You're good.
Yeah. 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 Um I asked her I wanted her to draw something in terms of like some type of would she be interested in drawing like fan art for the book, And she she's instantly right there with like how much you're gonna pay me. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, okay." You know, she's right
Respect.
there. She knows, yeah. She's on top of it. So
Artists get paid. There you go.
yeah, yep. Artists get paid, so it's only fair. Nobody works for free. Um, but yeah.
Wow. Well, okay. 20 questions with Jimmy then. The questions that
20?
I have always wanted to ask. Well, no, not that many. But I have you and you're stuck. So, is the Yeti your favorite cryptid? This is on topic.
No, it's actually the Squonk, which is a PA cryptid, which is like a pig-like thing with covered in warts and it cries.
I have never heard of such a thing. I will have to look that up.
Yep. Squonk, Squonk.
Where did that originate? Do you have any
No
idea? That
idea.
is
Nope. Nope. Uh, I can probably look it up right now. If this is on YouTube, I'll share my screen. Here, yeah, here we go.
the
Can I
squonk.
share my screen? Right? Yeah, share
Uh,
screen. Here we go. There's the
oh
squonk.
god. That is hideous.
I love it.
Oh.
Yep, that's my favorite.
Oh my god. It's like a walking pimple.
Yeah, I love all the different iterations of the squonk. A couple of these have really captured the squonkness of it.
Audio listeners, I feel truly well, maybe I don't feel truly sorry for you. Do yourself a favor, don't Google the squonk.
Google it.
That's all I'm saying. No,
Google
don't.
it. Google
Oh.
it. Go right to it.
That's
Squonk.
hideous. This 20 questions has started off, in a direction I did not anticipate. I'm not so
Well,
sure I feel comfortable going down this road.
let's go.
All
What else we got?
right. Okay. Well, you do this all the time on the podcast. So explain the love of time travel stories to me because you cared enough to put it in your creator bio, for God's sakes. It is
They're
in the
my
book.
favorite. I just don't think any topic has captured my imagination like time travel. Um, I mean, Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies. I think it's a nearly, like, perfect film. Um, I don't know if that's where it started, but I read, watch, a ton of stuff that has to do with time travel. The really good stuff, the really bad stuff. Yeah, I don't know, just the idea that, you could go back and unmake things, um, to change time. I don't know how it would actually work. Like, I love thinking through the idea of, like, the grandfather paradox. Like, could you go back in time and kill your grandfather, before your father was born, right? Like, this the thought experiment of it. I just really There's something about it that scratches an itch that I just love thinking about. And so because like, if you did, like, how would that work? Would you be able to return to a time where you didn't exist? Would time somehow stop you, and that you'd be prevented from doing it because your grandfather never was killed before your father was born? Does that mean your attempts to go back in time were unsuccessful? Yeah, and just the idea, like, what happens? Does it branch off into a new timeline? Um, I mean, I think the Back to the Future one is not great. I don't like how, probably my biggest pet peeve in terms of time travel with Back to the Future is how, like, they have, like, the newspaper article, and after Marty changes things, the newspaper article changes. Like, I don't think that's how it would work. I think, like, that still is an artifact that exists. Like, it wouldn't just, like, magically change. So, but I understand the reason they use that device for, for movies and whatnot.
Sure.
But yeah, I've always kinda captured my imagination, and yeah, I love it. People that backed Made in Delco, there were a couple of them that backed at the Digital Deluxe, which I sent the scripts, as well as a short prose story that I had written called Mr. Whirlo, which was about time travel. And, yeah, it's kind of a bummer of a story, but, yeah, I just always been fascinated by it. Always, 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 and, I love it. I'll, you know, give it to me. Give me the Back to the Futures, give me the Time Cop, um, which is also
Oh,
kinda ridiculous.
yeah,
The same matter
that's
can't
truly
occupy the
bad.
same space. Love that. Yeah, I want Doctor Who, um, Lost. Yeah, I love it. I love it all.
See, I just find it such a cheat that I don't my brain will not let me do that. I'm like, "No. This as a writer, you're trying to use shortcuts to make your point, and you're cheating. Be more creative."
Well, I mean, it depends on what the purpose of it is. I mean, I think, it's the interesting stuff about, like, Back to the Future is you kinda get a glimpse of the past, um, and you get to see how Marty change like, just a couple of small changes that Marty makes totally changes the dynamic between his parents and Biff, and in terms of his parents' relationship, um, and also, like, the relationship between Marty and Doc and how that's affected by time travel. I find it very, yeah, I find it very fascinating. Um, and I love the ones that I think do it well, at least in terms of, like, what I think if time travel would be possible, how it would work, and I love the ones that just do it, like, really poorly. Um, you know? So
And
so
knowing
yeah.
you, I think you're gonna your next big project is gonna be a time travel thing to spite me and also to impress me because 'cause you've already impressed me, so you set the bar
Okay.
with Penny and the
Well,
Yeti, so
I'll
I want
I'll
your
try
time
and do
travel version that's gonna
I'll
impress
try
me.
and do a time travel thing that, that, it both impresses and delights and annoys you. So I'll try and see if I can work that out. Yeah, there's some things with time travel story. I could talk about time travel stories like for the next 4 hours. But I won't do that to you. But there's some time travel stuff. I just got done an audiobook now called The Book of Lost Hours, which had like kind of time travel-y elements. That wasn't the main part of the story. It was more about like memory and to an extent it was about time. But it did one of the things like for the most part I like the book. It did one of those things though with time travel stories that I really don't like where um there's an alternate version created of somebody due to time travel, and, like, our main character acts like, you know, "Oh, that's still my same husband, or partner," or whatever it is. Only because I think, like, well, now we're getting to, like, when time travel stuff affects somebody's memory, because really, I think that's kinda all we are, like, all of our memories. So if you, through time travel, cause someone to have the totally different memories and experiences, they're not the same person, you know?
Right.
So I don't like when time travel
Sure.
stories do that, but, in any event, now everyone's turned off, and stopped
Not at
listening to
all.
my
No,
love of time travel.
I don't care. I mean, I'm filling in the gaps in my knowledge, so just getting to know you better.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody wants to know you better, so
Listeners, hit us
that's
with
the
your
whole
best time
point.
travel stories. Hit
Yeah,
us
put
with
it in
your
the
favorite.
comments. Put it in the comments because I need some good suggestions because I mean,
Yeah.
I feel unfulfilled on the time travel thing. I feel like I don't know, missed out
You've seen
on the good stuff.
you've seen Back to the Future, right?
Yeah, I like Back to the Future, genuinely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've seen Time Cop.
Yes. I'm not gonna call that good. Ever. No.
Ugh. Jean-Claude Van Damme
But
and
even
Ron
Loki,
Silver?
even the Loki series bothered me. So, if it wasn't for
Oh, okay.
Alligator Loki, I would have checked out.
Okay. I still haven't watched season 2, um, but I did see season 1, and I did enjoy it. I did like it.
Well, we'll shift gears a little bit so people don't get super bored.
Okay.
The other question, because I know we both have a theater background, so this is something I've been curious about.
Yep.
So, and you're always talking about it on the show. So, what is your favorite musical or play?
Great. Oh, yeah. Fun question. My favorite musical, Sweeney Todd.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, uh, uh, Mainly because I did it in college and there was just a lot going on. It was my junior year of college. There was like a lot going on, and it's really hard for me to separate the memories and I guess the struggle of that experience with um with the objectivity about the musical. Yeah, it just holds a very special place in my heart that I will just say Sweeney Todd's my favorite musical.
Interesting. Okay. Mine's I'm a big Tom Stoppard fan, so I like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead is
Yeah.
that is peak to me. I love that. I
Yeah.
was quoting it the other day because my son is reading Hamlet and he was just horrified. He's like, "You love Hamlet?" I'm like, "Oh, I love Hamlet." And my wife the same thing because she's reading it to help him, work through writing the essays and stuff. And they're both like, "You're broken. Why do you love Hamlet?" And I was like, I love Shakespeare. Like The Tempest is absolutely amazing, and
Yeah.
they
No,
called me
I love
broken.
Shakespeare. Yeah, I love Shakespeare too. Um But yeah, probably my favorite musical, Sweeney Todd. If I had to pick a favorite play, oh, that would be tough. I mean, in terms of Shakespeare, Othello's my favorite because
Okay.
I don't think he's written a better villain than Iago. In terms of Iago's motivation, in terms of the things that he, you know, in terms of like just the writing for the character, I kind of think Iago's is the best written villain, and I just love the show. And also, again, because I had to do a monologue to go to St. when I was, auditioning for a theater scholarship for St. Joe's, and you had to do, like, a monologue from a regular play and a monologue from Shakespeare, and I did one of Iago's monologues from Othello, um, and yeah, I just love it.
Nice. Well, I always like to wrap up with my shout outs, and that can be something that inspired you recently or somebody who did you a solid. And go first to give you a minute to think about it. For me, I've discovered this is a thing, Viking hip hop, right? And music has always been a way of coping for me during the worst parts, whenever I'm struggling. And during the most recent lupus flare, I kind of disconnected from it. So it's nice to find my way back to some music. What about you?
Yeah, even though I'm not the host this time, I'm gonna shout out to Bobby, the Cryptid Creator Quarter's #1 most dedicated fan, of course. Um, yeah, I mean, if anything, I wanna shout out, like, all the other shows, honestly, that I've been on to talk about Penny and the Yeti. Like, it really I think I was saying before we started recording, but it really has been incredible. Um, the the community and the folks that have had us on, and it's been really, great. Everyone that's done, like, an interview, um, and everyone that we've talked to, but, like, so, and hey, if, I mean, I appreciate all our listeners listening to us, but if sometimes you wanna, check something else out, there are so many good podcasts and YouTube shows and people that are just doing a ton of stuff for the comic book, community and talking about comic books. But yeah, I mean, I was on Fanbase Press, the Demonster. Christian Angelis did a really nice interview and review. Two Geeks Talking, Comics XF, Super Pulp Science, Gate Crashers, panels, our pages and panels, Keeping It Geekly, The Comics Collective, Splash Pages Comic Book Club, Long Box Punk, Panel by Panel, World at War Comics, Comics for All, Comic Books Beyond. Adam Smith on Comic Books Beyond, he's kind of, I think, hasn't been doing it for too long. It was fantastic. Blake's Buzz, Bearded Comic Bro, Greg's fantastic. Comics are dope. BJ was amazing. 22 Panels podcast, Comics Bodega, Comic Book Club, Fortress of Comic News, Pop Culture Squadcast, Bob Harrison. It was amazing to hear Mike Gold, who's like a DC legend, say nice things about Penny and the Yeti. The Facts Project with James. We talked to Brad from Comic Book Couples Counseling, which is one of my favorite comic book podcasts. The Leo, Jeremy, and Drew at Splash Pages Comic Book Club. Yeah, so I'm shouting out everybody.
That's great. It's an amazing community, and there's like so many people volunteering their time, and so many people who are passionate about it, which is
Yeah.
really amazing. I think it's underappreciated for sure. So yeah, that's a great shout.
Thank you.
Well, I am legally mandated. Jimmy's the lawyer, so actually legally mandated to tell you to buy Penny and the Yeti. But honestly, it's good. You should buy it because it's actually good, not because I'm legally mandated to actually say it's good. But um, and as I've said it before, I didn't know you had this in you. Quite honestly, no shade,
Oh,
but
thank you.
yeah, I'm definitely impressed. And compliments, as you know, are not something that I dole out all the time. So everybody should go pick up Penny and the Yeti. It's hitting shelves April 21st, right?
Yeah, it'll be in bookstores April 21st, and I think at comic shops, April 22nd, the Wednesday.
Cool. We'll put links in the show notes so everybody can find it really, really easily. And dude, this has been a lot of fun. I've gotten to know a little bit more about you that I didn't know. So really enjoyed it. We got to do it
Thank you.
again. You got to
Yeah,
write
I
something
agree.
else. Time travel.
Time travel. That'll be next. That'll be next. I'll
There,
work on it.
there you go.
All right. Thank
All right.
you
Well,
very much.
this is Byron O'Neill, and on behalf of Jimmy and the rest of us at Comic Book Yeti, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.